He has worked in Malaysia National Technology Research and Development Center before coming to New Zealand and joining Westpac. Tonight, he will be sharing his personal story of how he got involved with open source contribution. So all the best, Dan, and welcome.
Yeah,
Over to you.
thank you. Thank you, Kevin. And thanks, Karen, for this opportunity and big welcome to everyone. I know it's not that great hour at the day. I'm after work and this dodgy weather, but love to have you all here. Yeah, thanks. Welcome. Yeah, so let me quickly share my screen. Yeah, so this is about contributing to open source, generally my experience, what I did, how I started doing this. So yeah, I've been talking about open source for the couple of days, and even my 4-year-old daughter knows about this, and yeah, she understands this, and she asked me to make sure that I close it and put it in the fridge actually. Yeah. So, well, as a start, it's good to look into what open source is, and this kind of a buzzword, everyone being using open source, the name just to refer something, but the common understanding that we have, this is actually that the source code of the project is actually open to public. Yeah, that's right. But there are a few other things actually you need to consider and holds the gravity towards this free and open source software. Apart from being that the software source is free for public, there are a few things about the redistribution of the software, about the source code, and that it allows derived work from this source to be used, and it says and emphasizes that you need to attribute the authors of the original source code throughout the propagation or redistribution of the software, and no discrimination against person, groups, or field of endeavor. That means like you can't make any kind of discrimination toward people, and also you can't say you can't use this software to do research or to develop products on a specific field. Like for an example, you can't say like you can't use this software to do genetic research or to develop product on something related to religion or something like that. So no such discrimination is allowed. And these all redistribution plays a significant part in free and open source software. Another one is actually the free software. People usually call this FOSS, or free and open source software together. And here the free means actually the freedom of the end user or the community, not something related to price or the money. Something like free software is more like free speech, not like free beer, something. Yeah. So when it drills down to actual contribution and software developer or the contributors level, the license that actually matters, that you need to actually include these license in your work. So it drills down to actually copy this license from wherever you're being previously used, and put the certain attributes, and you carry on this. So for an example, like here, you put the copyright here, and attribute the right owners of the software, and you just put in the source file or where it applicable, so you are good to go. And if you really want to know more about like FOSS and open source software, how these licenses are working, there are a few sites you can actually go, like open source communities and Free Software Foundation and Open Source Initiative. And I will be sharing these URLs or sites later after this. And if we have time, we can actually quickly jump into this and see what's really there for us. Yeah. So the beauty of this is actually we really don't know. We have no clue how much open source software that we use day to day. We use something for our work, our day-to-day work, behind closed boundaries of your company policies and stuff like that. But you have no idea. You may not have an idea how many all these are open source projects. So just take a look into this slide and see how many names are much familiar for you, like starting from open source operating systems to cloud containers, languages, you name it, like Java, Docker, Ubuntu, Maven, Gradle, Postgres, SQL, and Zookeeper. A lot. You know where this getting at, right? Even our very famous Apache Tomcat, that's pretty much open source. So you know, the good thing is actually there this much of opportunity that we all can actually jump into and give you a good contribution. That your efforts will go a long way actually with these things. And it's always good to see why we should actually contribute to open source software, because it's all your attitude and your willingness to help people, and because you will be putting effort out of your working hours. So it's good to know where you going with this and what your time being put into. So one good thing is actually to look like, since we already saw like this much of open source is there, these are your day-to-day dose of open source work or tools that you are using, and in a way that you can look like this is actually improving your day-to-day using software, right? If I'm using Apache Kafka or PostgreSQL or Java or anything, it would be really cool to improve this actually. That's been good people doing behind the scene in the open community. They're putting their good hours to actually improve these things for you. And also, if you're really interested in mentoring and also learning, not only teaching, and if you're willing to learn something new, or if you want to improve what you have along with you, it's really a good opportunity. And the public reputation, your career, and I must say, like this was very much a driving force for me to career wise and my focus wise in the work that I'm going to do, going to be trickled down to many people. That very inspiration actually triggered me to jump into these things. So and networking, you meet new people, and no, that's good thing. I know people who actually even went long way back with this, even got married, finding their life joining in this community, but make sure it's a professional community. So just don't ask for a coffee or something in the middle of an issue discussion, thing like that. Just respect the community. So yeah, and it's that, as you said, like earlier, the empowering of the community and giving back to the community. You know, for example, like Stack Overflow, how much everyone trying to use every day. I personally use it every day, but no one of us, I think, not me, put a little time to actually reply back an answer or give what you already know, that it might be helpful to someone else. So all these things are actually ways of giving back to community. And I started this journey fairly late actually. So there is no good time to start, right? The right time is now. So And also it's good to look the ways you can actually contribute, because the word contribute actually resonates or give the wrong impression that it is always source code that you need to work with or to do technical stuff. But that's not actually the case. Source code definitely plays the major role, but there are many other ways but you can improve the documentation. There are a lot of improvements in a lot of these software products when it comes to the documentation. Add examples, typos, uh, template or look and feel settings. These everything actually matters. And also like it is really important that you build a community around what you like, so you can organize events, maybe a discussion group or anything, a user group or anything but you like, for example, Auckland Java group, Auckland Kafka group, something like that. You may not know anything, but it's good to gather people and actually start something. This is all contributing to open source and the community directly and indirectly. And yes, as I said, like not only source code, logos, designs, UIs, and as you said, like issues plays a really big that's how it actually being driven. Now I use something, say I'm using Apache Kafka or like Spring Security or Spring, and I find something that is not working correctly, or I don't have enough help in the documentation how to use it. So you can actually raise an issue with the community saying, okay, I was trying to do this, and with this version, it is not working. And it seems this is an issue like that. And the community will respond, and actually they will eventually ask that whether I can actually work on it or raise a PR to fix that. Or someone else will pick the issue and fix it for you if you don't have time. And also in some cases, they might actually say, no, this is not that you have missed this, and there is a way of doing this. It is this that you need to look into. So this is not an issue at this moment, or they can put it into later references and things like that. And also you can start answering questions and clearing things for people in various channels, Slack, Stack Overflow, in these community sources, any way that you can think of to help people. And yeah, so next comes the big question, like where to actually start. So we need a project to work or find some source to work. So that's the biggest or the most important thing that you need to check before you can actually proceed further. So you can ask a few questions. These are generally the things that you need to look into to direct yourself, to steer yourself to the right direction. So how I can find a project to contribute, and what skills do I have? Because it's always good that if you pick something that resonates with your own skills, then you can actually give quickly to the community without waiting a long time, or without having the hassle of the learning curve. And that's not the case always. And if you really want to take this opportunity as a learning curve, or if you really want to start new something, you can actually join the project and start from the ground up and pick from there. So, but my idea was actually, my personal thought was, it is good to actually pick something that actually close to your core skills, so you can jump into helping others really quickly. And when it comes to finding proper projects, you can ask, what software do I really daily use, or what I am dealing with every day. So it's easy, and you know what you're really dealing with, and you have the product or the technical and the business knowledge of how the product works. So it will be easy to understand the issues or something, but these are not really necessary, but it's a fairly reasonable question to ask you, so you can actually focus your efforts. And as I mentioned earlier, and any bugs or enhancements that you think you can add into the libraries or the applications that you're actually using. So all these things actually can be raised as issues throughout their proper channels. Actually, if you think that something missing in a product, for example, is a security flaw, or one version of Java is not supported, or something like that, you can always look for these kind of things and raise these and issues, and not only fixing and pushing actual code related stuff. Raising an issue will also put a little green mark on your GitHub profile that's saying that you're actually active in this particular project. And also just see whether you have any friends or close colleagues who know this, or who are willing to jump into these things. So you're not alone, and you can actually quickly get some help and jump into this. This is from my personal experience. I tried these. So yeah, and the biggest one is actually finding a proper open source project. And you can think of few things. Actually, there are numerous places where you can find open source projects, but two main things I focused was Apache Software Foundation and Spring Framework. ASF or the Apache holds the most number of excuse me, guys, number of open source projects, or the initiatives at the moment. So you can see here they have around 364 projects and 27 incubating podlings. These are actually the podlings are the new projects actually being taken over by Apache Software Foundation, and the community being built. You can think these as startup projects. So that means if you have a really good idea that you can think that can go a really long way, you can actually talk to Apache Software Foundation and convince them to see whether they can take this under their umbrella and build up a community. So these are called podlings, and there are 27 of them and 364 mature projects. And if you were to think of the amount of codes or the projects currently working, you can see from the inception of ASF in 1996 up to now, like how many lines of codes being developed. I really don't know how to say this. I don't know, like 600 sextillion, I don't know. Yeah, but this much of code is there being for you to engage in on all the languages: HTML, Java, XML, C++, JSON, Python, right? So you're not left, you have a part and opportunity. And then the Spring Framework, actually, from 2008 to 2023, right up now, you can see how this framework project has been there, progressed. I think almost all the REST API is being written at the moment, like most of them, majority, but they use Spring Framework to do. And all these parts of Spring Framework, from Spring Boot, data flow, security, graph, LDAP, flow, batch, everything, you name it. These are all open source projects driven by community. And one quick thing I wanted to bring here. Now the ASF, the way of working ASF and the Spring projects are a bit different. ASF is the key player, and they've been there for like forever, and they are more mature. And the way they work is through the committees. That means the project is assigned a committee, and the roadmap of the project is actually being decided by this committee and the community. Whereas for the Spring framework, it's different, and it's previously owned by Pivotal and now by VMware, Tanzu Labs. So they have their own way of steering these projects. So ASF is more community focused from top to bottom, whereas Spring framework related projects has a different way of working. But when it comes to our level of contribution and working with the code, it's more like community driven 100%. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, also, like this is your time that you're going to put here. So it's important to see that your time is not being wasted, and end of the day, it is actually helping you as well as community to grow. So there are a few questions that you have to answer and make sure that these are in line with your efforts. The first thing is you need to verify that this project is actually an open source project, so you can check the license and also compare the license and make sure that it's actually an open source project. And also to see how active this project is, like it is not actually something lagging behind of the time and no one is active there, or it retired or something like that. But just make sure that this is an active, welcoming project at the moment. So we'll look later how we can actually check this. It is simply looking how often people contribute to the repository. And just to have an idea how frequently the changes are fixed or features are improved, you can see the ratio of closed pull request and open pull requests. So and also it is important, as I said, like to see how welcoming the community, whether the moderators are welcoming, whether they attribute you properly, whether they answer your questions, whether they're engaging properly. So these are really, really important before you actually can start. So it will ensure that your time and efforts won't go in vain. And finally, the most important thing, that your gut feeling, right? You know, that feeling that, this is good for me. So that's important. Yeah, so you found a project, it's active, nice community, and what's next? And you need something tangible, that you actually need to do something like that. So you need to fork the repositories and look for an issue where you can actually work on, talk to them, engage with them, and ask that whether you can, in simple English, whether you can actually fix this, or can I work on this, something like that. So we'll quickly after this jump into some web pages and some sites and see in GitHub how these are being done. And yes, so but there comes a point actually, especially when you're dealing with this source code related stuff, no matter how experienced you are, no matter how much exposure you have, you doubt sometimes, because it's a large community with a lot of expert people, and you really don't know them, and you feel the learning helplessness, right, kind of a doubt. So you may forget things to do properly the way they do it, like using command line always to do git commits, merge, rebasings, forces, and things like that, or maybe the technical terms that they use, don't worry, just ask them, right? Be honest and say, like, I don't know, what is it? Or like, how can I do this? Is there anything I can look? And in general, it is good to brush up your Git expertise. You don't need to be a real geek, but basic things and stuff like that, just give it a brush up, because it is not like that you are always using a IDE or a integrated development environment to do these things. It's good to know that how this can be done in the command line also. That gives you more confidence, like, and also, altogether, like, just a little idea about GitHub altogether, what GitHub has for us. Yeah, and we'll jump into these few websites and see what we have for us. And as I said, like, it is really, really okay to fail. And before jumping into the web pages, I'll show you a recent example of mine. Actually, I recently did a fix with all the energy that I had, and I actually fixed in a completely different branch. And the way I just wanted to show you how gentle and welcoming the community is. Like, the way they said was like, this is really great. I left some feedback in line because this is targeting 5.8 something, and you please rebase against the branch, and I think it's ready to point you to squash your commits. That's really cool. That's the way you also need to give the feedback or answer questions. So just make sure that you are that gentle human being when it comes to talking to people, giving feedback, things like that. So that's something I just wanted to share. It's okay to completely fail. No one will laugh at you. You will not. You are not alone, actually. Right? I started there. So yeah, just go for it. And there are some helpful sites actually I've listed down here. I can share these things at with the slides or the end of the discussion. Before we jump into the question and answers, I would actually quickly jump into show few sites actually. Wait, just give me 1 minute. I will quickly. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Yes. All right. So the first thing I actually wanted to show is the homepage of actually Apache projects directory. So here in the home page, if you go to Apache home projects, you actually can see how many projects you have on different languages, like you name it, right? Ruby, PHP, XML, SQL, Objective, Java, right? FreeMarker, TypeScript, everything, you have it there. And if you really wanted to see based on the libraries or the application types, whether it is related to big data or anything, and you can actually browse them the same way. Like if you go under projects, you can actually browse all the projects by name. Simply, there are hundreds of projects, and if you know these names, I think probably very familiar to you all, like Apache Commons logging, Apache Commons math, these Apache Commons IO. And if you go to one of these projects, they will actually list down the information that you really need to start on these projects. So you have the bug tracking, the list of issues they have, and the mailing list and the Git repository where the host is being, the source code is being hosted. So these are the all issues. I think these Jira or whatever the issue tracking, these are quite common to or familiar to you. So you'll be all right around here. Yeah. So statistics show how the code bases grew throughout the time. That's one thing I wanted to quickly bring up. So just go through all these and read. You have tons of information that how you can start up and continue in this journey. And the next one is actually the license and like comparisons of different license on the open source initiatives web page, comparison of these license. So you can search this if you really need to compare these things and see what is it like, software free software or different license types. And here's the open source initiatives definition of open source. It's defined here what is actually an open source project and what it needs to be done if you are starting a new open source project. And then quickly we'll jump into few things actually. So this is a GitHub repository for Spring Security project. So I'm not going to spend much of time here. So usually the code is the open default tab where all the source code is being hosted. And the important thing here is actually the README file where you have all information related to this project, how you can build it, and also the most importantly, how you can create pull requests and the contributor guidelines if you are starting as a newcomer, and how to build this from the source. And then comes the issues for the Spring Security. So there are this much of issues, around 823 issues currently, and you can actually look for issues based on different labels. So what you'll be initially looking at is issues that are either marked with status first timers only, or status with ideal for contribution. So if you click all these issues, 82, 27 open issues, these are all open for you to jump in and actually ask questions and work on. For an example, like I can show you, like someone started to work on this issue, like improve remember me documentations. So there is someone raised this issue, and someone like you and me, they just asked, can I work on this? And they replied that you can actually start on this, right? Could I take it over? And things like that. She asked, but she never replied back again. And then someone else picked. So this is the way of working. Like you ask, you get an answer, you give time, and then you can actually start working on these things. And this is a sample of issue that I worked recently. I wanted to show someone else raised this issue actually. And then the moderators asked whether they are really interested, the one who raised the issue, to solve it, but he said he can't with the timeline. So then only I asked like whether I can actually pick this and fix. So you know where this is actually going and how this is being done. There are tons of things to talk. I think the time is running. I would just conclude from here. I try to put it much as I can. But feel free to ask any questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. If you have any question, if you can put it in the chat or if come on mute and ask, that's fine.